Before you buy a home in Colorado, stop. The state's prettiest suburbs hide some of the ugliest realities in the West: sky-high crime, toxic air, collapsing schools, and neighborhoods where your home value can plummet just by crossing the street. Realtors won't tell you this. Listings won't show it. But if you don't know where Colorado's danger zones are, you could walk straight into a 30-year financial disaster disguised as a good deal. This is your final warning. Colorado sells a fantasy. Snow-glossed mountains, healthy lifestyles, top 5 places to live, rankings plastered across social media. It all feeds into a national illusion that buying a home here is a guaranteed upgrade. But beneath that dreamy branding lies a harsh suburban reality that tens of thousands of newcomers walk into blindly every single year. High prices in Colorado do not automatically equal safer neighborhoods, strong appreciation, or stable long-term investment. In fact, some of the state's most aggressively marketed suburbs are hiding environmental hazards, predatory tax districts, overburdened infrastructure, and schools performing far below state averages. Many out-of-state buyers arrive thinking they've outsmarted the market by grabbing a new build, a fresh subdivision, or a home labeled affordable for Colorado. What they don't realize is how much of that affordability is engineered through deceptive marketing, introductory incentives, and developer-controlled tax districts that silently balloon costs over the next 10 to 30 years. Families fall for modern facades without realizing they're buying into gridlocked commute corridors, semi-industrial zones, and pockets of crime that never appear on tourism brochures. What agents rarely highlight, and what newcomers almost never research, are the hidden variables that truly determine whether a suburb is a smart long-term investment. These include special tax districts that add thousands in annual costs, worsening air quality maps, groundwater contamination warnings, floodplains, weak school performance, unstable HOAs, and stalled appreciation curves. Colorado's real estate trap is simple. Communities that look perfect on a weekend tour but fall apart under the real conditions of daily life. The traffic hell, the pollution, the safety concerns, the rising taxes, and the unstable resale value. This series exposes the 10 Colorado suburbs where the gap between image and reality is widest. These are places where newcomers arrive full of hope, only to discover that the house itself was never the problem. It was the environment, the infrastructure, and the hidden long-term financial drain. Before you buy anything in Colorado, you need to see what these suburbs are truly hiding. Lochbuie is the classic Colorado trap suburb. Glossy, spacious, relatively new homes marketed as an affordable alternative to Denver and Brighton. At first glance, it feels like a budget-friendly jackpot. Big square footage, new construction communities, and price tags that seem shockingly reasonable compared to the rest of the Front Range. But once you dig deeper, Lochbuie reveals why so many buyers regret the move within just a few years. The first hidden cost is the commute. Lochbuie's location may look convenient on a map, but in reality, residents are funneled into some of the region's most congested corridors. Commute times regularly exceed national averages, stretching simple 20-mile drives into 60 to 90-minute slogs. Gas costs skyrocket, work-life balance erodes, and car wear and tear becomes a silent but constant financial drain. Safety is another under-discussed issue. While not a violent crime hotspot, Lochbuie suffers from property crime rates roughly 20% above the national average, a pattern linked to rapid, unplanned growth and limited community resources. Combine that with high property tax districts, especially in newer developments, and residents pay a premium for amenities that simply don't exist. Schools are a major weakness. Test scores and performance metrics fall nearly 30% below state averages, leaving families frustrated and forcing many to consider private schooling or school choice commutes, both of which add significant recurring costs. Odor issues also plague certain neighborhoods due to surrounding agricultural operations and nearby industrial influences. These are the kinds of quality of life factors never mentioned in brochures but impossible to ignore once you move in. And then there's the financial trap: weak appreciation and difficult resale. Because Lochbuie is saturated with new builds and surrounding land still ripe for more development, the supply keeps expanding offsites, pushing down long-term value growth. Many owners report struggling to sell without slashing prices or offering incentives. The warning is simple. Lockbuy looks cheap up front, but the cumulative costs, taxes, commutes, stagnating value, poor schools, make it one of Colorado's most deceptively expensive places to live. Fountain is one of Colorado's most misleading suburbs, a place that appears stable because of its proximity to Fort Carson, yet hides a long list of environmental and economic red flags. Military families often move here believing the location alone guarantees safety, stability, and reliable resale value. But that confidence is built on illusion, not data. The biggest shadow over Fountain is its history of PFAS groundwater contamination, one of the most notorious environmental crises in the state. While cleanup efforts have occurred, the stigma hasn't disappeared, and that lingering reputation continues to drag down long-term appreciation. Compare Fountain's sluggish value growth with the booming neighborhoods of northern Colorado Springs, and the divide becomes painfully obvious. Buyers think they're getting in early. Instead, they're buying into a zip code that appreciates at half the pace of nearby markets. Crime compounds the problem. Fountain's violent crime rate runs nearly double the Colorado average, and the odds of experiencing property crime sit around 1 in 34. These aren't small deviations. They're indicators of a suburb struggling to keep up with rapid population growth and insufficient infrastructure. Economically, Fountain is fragile. With a poverty rate near 10% and a local economy heavily dependent on military employment, the area lacks meaningful diversification. When the rental market fluctuates, and it does frequently, household stability swings with it. Investors face inconsistent returns, while families face the risk of being stuck in a neighborhood with flat growth and rising costs. The trap for military families is predictable. They buy thinking location equals value, only to realize they're in one of the lowest growth zones in the entire Pikes Peak region. By the time they receive orders to relocate, appreciation hasn't kept up, making resale difficult and equity minimal. Evans is often marketed as an accessible alternative to the increasingly expensive Greeley area, but that low entry price hides structural problems that make long-term wealth building nearly impossible. Locals refer to Evans as Greeley's struggling sibling, and the data backs that reputation. Crime is the first major warning sign. Violent crime sits roughly 40% above the Colorado average, while property crime skyrockets to nearly 60% above the national baseline. These numbers don't just affect safety. They directly impact home appreciation, insurance rates, and investor interest. Neighborhoods with this level of instability consistently underperform, and Evans is no exception. The economic picture isn't any brighter. With a poverty rate exceeding 15%, the city battles chronic financial strain, limiting both community investment and upward mobility. Schools follow the same pattern: weak test scores, low graduation rates, and limited resources, making the area even less attractive for families seeking long-term roots. Then there's the flood risk. Portions of Evans sit near the South Platte River floodplain, a region with a documented history of severe flooding. Insurance premiums have spiked in response, adding hundreds, sometimes thousands, to annual homeownership costs. Flood zone properties also appreciate far slower, since buyers often avoid them altogether. When you combine high crime, high poverty, flood zone exposure, and weak schools, you get a market where equity simply dies. Homes may be cheap to buy, but they rarely gain meaningful value. Owners often discover that resale is sluggish, competitive pricing is brutal, and insurance is a lifelong financial penalty. For buyers lured by Evans' low upfront prices, the warning is simple. The savings at closing are wiped out by long-term stagnation, risk, and instability. The price is low for a reason. Commerce City is the textbook example of a suburb where industrial dominance completely overshadows residential life. At the center of the problem stands the Suncor refinery, one of Colorado's most notorious polluters. For decades, Suncor has faced repeated violations, chemical releases, emergency shutdowns, and state investigations, all contributing to a long-running environmental stigma that residents can't escape. This isn't a subtle issue. Commerce City consistently ranks among the worst air quality zip codes in the entire United States, with elevated levels of benzene, particulate matter, and other toxins that put respiratory health at risk. Clifton deceives newcomers with its scenic western slope beauty, promising affordability near Grand Junction without the overwhelming prices seen along the Front Range. But beneath the desert sunsets and river views lies a community grappling with deep and persistent socioeconomic strain. While the prices look attractive, the long-term stability simply isn't there. The most immediate red flag is crime. Clifton's property crime rate sits around 80% above the national average, creating a daily sense of insecurity and driving up insurance costs. This high crime environment weakens neighborhood cohesion and discourages the kind of investment needed to revitalize aging areas. Economically, Clifton struggles significantly. The poverty rate hovers near 20%, meaning 1 in 5 residents faces serious financial hardship. Unemployment consistently trends 2–3% higher than the Colorado average, reflecting limited job opportunities, stagnant wages, and a workforce heavily dependent on seasonal or inconsistent employment. Housing stock presents another major issue. Large sections of Clifton are dominated by aging mobile homes, older rentals, and transient housing, all of which suppress appreciation and create a cycle where new investment rarely sticks. Even when homes are well maintained, they're surrounded by properties that drag down overall market performance. The school system mirrors the broader economic challenges. Clifton schools are consistently underfunded and underperforming, with low proficiency scores and limited resources. Families seeking academic stability often look elsewhere, creating a pipeline of residents who arrive hopeful but leave disappointed. Retirees and remote workers, two groups increasingly drawn to the western slope, often find themselves financially trapped. Initial affordability masks long-term stagnation. Slow appreciation, high crime, and surrounding poverty make it difficult to build equity or sell later at a gain. Commerce City is the harshest example of how industrial dominance can completely undermine residential life, no matter how polished new developments try to appear. At the center of this suburb's identity is the Suncor Refinery, a facility with a decades-long track record of pollution incidents, chemical releases, and repeated environmental violations. Its presence alone shapes the city's reputation, and not in a good way. This single facility is why Commerce City consistently ranks as one of the worst air quality zip codes in the entire United States, with persistent reports of elevated toxins, noxious odors, and chronic air quality advisories. Health concerns are not hypothetical here. Residents frequently cite respiratory issues, asthma flare-ups, and worry created by long lists of documented Suncor violations. For many families, the environmental risk becomes a daily calculation rather than an abstract fear. Crime adds another heavy layer of instability. Commerce City's violent crime rate is more than double the national average, and the overall odds of being a victim sit at an alarming 1 in 22. With numbers that high, homeowners face lower appreciation rates, higher insurance premiums, and an overall unstable quality of life. Schools further drag on long-term investment. Many campuses record some of Metro Denver's lowest proficiency scores, discouraging families who seek academic performance and reducing future buyer demand. Meanwhile, unemployment trends regularly sit higher than state levels, reflecting an economy deeply tied to industrial labor cycles instead of diversified growth. Even Reunion, the city's polished, master-planned community, can't escape Commerce City's overarching stigma. The homes are new, the parks are clean, the amenities are appealing, but the air doesn't care about neighborhood borders. The refinery's presence shapes market perception, drives cautious buyers away, and limits appreciation potential for years. Commerce City proves that no amount of modern development can outshine industrial reality. Clifton may look like an affordable slice of western Colorado paradise, but beneath the desert scenery and proximity to Grand Junction lies a community weighed down by long-term economic strain. People often move here believing the lower home prices offer an escape from the Front Range's chaos. But what they find is a suburb grappling with deep structural challenges. The most visible issue is crime. Property crime rates reach nearly 80% above the national average, creating an environment where break-ins, theft, and vandalism feel far too routine. High crime undermines quality of life, hurts resale value, and discourages meaningful investment from developers and new buyers. Economically, the entire region struggles. Clifton's poverty rate hovers near 20%, meaning 1 in 5 residents is living with serious financial hardship. This creates ripple effects everywhere, from housing conditions to school funding. Unemployment trends 2–3% above the Colorado average, reflecting limited career opportunities and an over-reliance on seasonal, service, and low-wage jobs. Much of the housing inventory consists of aging mobile homes, older rentals, and transient units, all of which depress appreciation for surrounding properties. Even well-maintained homes lose value simply because the neighborhood lacks upward momentum. Schools in Clifton mirror the community's economic challenges. Underfunded, underperforming, and unable to compete with districts elsewhere in Colorado. Families looking for educational stability often end up leaving, accelerating a cycle of decline. Retirees and remote workers, two groups drawn by price and scenery, often become trapped. Appreciation is slow, resale is difficult, and the surrounding poverty drags on long-term equity. What starts as a smart, affordable choice becomes a stagnant investment with limited upside. Clifton's cycle is hard to break. Poverty breeds property neglect, neglect fuels crime, and crime blocks investment, keeping residents stuck in an ongoing loop of low growth and low opportunity. Englewood sells itself with one irresistible advantage: location. Just minutes from Denver, connected by the light rail, and packed with older neighborhoods that appear affordable compared to the city, it attracts buyers who want urban access without downtown prices. But the reality behind Englewood's convenience is a level of instability, crime, and daily stress that completely transforms the living experience once you move in. Start with the numbers. Englewood's property crime rate sits nearly 90% above the national average, making it one of the most burglarized, vandalized, and theft-prone suburbs in Metro Denver. Total crime overall is 70% above the Colorado average, placing residents at a continuously elevated risk. Statistically, people living in Englewood face roughly a 1 in 4 chance of becoming a victim of crime, a staggering figure that shapes everything from insurance costs to everyday routines. This isn't a quiet suburb. Englewood's landscape is a patchwork of industrial corridors, older residential neighborhoods, auto shops, warehouses, rail lines, and high-traffic commuter routes. The mix creates constant noise pollution, congestion, and safety concerns, especially in areas where commercial and residential zones sit directly on top of each other. Many newcomers discover too late that the block they toured during the day becomes a completely different environment at night. Economically, the city carries a persistent poverty rate around 12%, contributing to transiency, aging rental stock, and uneven development. Streets vary drastically. One block might feel charming, while the next looks neglected and unstable. This variance makes long-term appreciation unpredictable, especially for buyers who invest heavily in renovations only to find surrounding properties dragging down value. The daily lifestyle reality in Englewood includes porch thefts, car break-ins, catalytic converter theft waves, police sirens at all hours, and constant caution about where to park or walk after dark. Families especially feel the strain, balancing the benefits of proximity to Denver with relentless concerns about security and school quality. The discount near Denver is exactly that, a dangerous illusion. Buyers think they're saving money on housing, but the long-term costs of crime, instability, insurance, and suppressed appreciation mean Englewood rarely delivers the value people hope for. Convenience comes at a price, and in this case, it's far steeper than the listing suggests. Twin Lakes sounds like paradise. A peaceful name, access to nature, quiet water views, and the promise of a more serene Colorado lifestyle. But behind the branding lies one of the most consistently troubled suburbs in the state. The lakes may be beautiful, but they do little to protect residents from the harsh reality of aging infrastructure, rising crime, and chronic economic strain. Twin Lakes is built primarily on 1970s-era housing, much of it now outdated, poorly insulated, and in need of significant renovation. Roofs, electrical systems, windows, and plumbing are often decades past their intended lifespan. Newcomers who fall for the quiet lakeside living narrative quickly learn that homes here require expensive upgrades, turning what looked like an affordable option into a long-term financial drain. Crime is the most alarming issue. Twin Lakes posts total crime rates nearly 100% above the national average, meaning crime is essentially double what the typical American community experiences. Property crime is rampant, with residents facing a 1 in 20 chance of being a victim of burglary, theft, or vandalism. Violent crime is also disturbingly high, about 60% above the Colorado average, creating ongoing concerns about personal safety and nighttime activity. Economically, Twin Lakes is strained. Poverty rates hover around 14%, and household incomes remain significantly lower than surrounding cities. These conditions fuel declining property upkeep, inconsistent investment, and neighborhoods that feel stuck in an economic freeze. Schools reveal the same pattern. Local campuses underperform by double-digit margins compared to nearby districts, making the area far less attractive for families and further limiting long-term appreciation. For buyers, the trap is simple. The lakes look serene, but the liabilities overshadow the beauty. High crime, aging homes, weak schools, and economic instability combine to suppress equity and create a day-to-day experience that feels far from peaceful. In Twin Lakes, scenery can't compensate for the reality on the ground. Aurora is one of Colorado's largest and most misunderstood suburbs, a city so massive and diverse that its problems often hide in plain sight. Out-of-state buyers look at Aurora's affordability, its proximity to Denver, and its rapidly expanding development zones and assume it's a safe, stable choice. In reality, Aurora's size masks extreme neighborhood-to-neighborhood volatility, where one block can feel perfectly suburban, while the next faces intense crime, economic strain, and environmental issues. One of the most alarming statistics is Aurora's ranking as one of the worst cities in the entire United States for motor vehicle theft per capita. Thousands of cars are stolen here every single year, making auto theft a daily reality rather than an occasional risk. Insurance premiums spike, commute routines change, and residents often adapt by installing cameras, steering wheel locks, and specialized parking strategies. A lifestyle no one anticipates when buying a suburban home. Crime clusters are deeply embedded within Aurora's structure. It's not uncommon to see high-crime pockets sitting directly inside or beside middle-class neighborhoods. This creates unpredictable living conditions and sharp differences in appreciation. Two homes only a few streets apart can have completely different financial outcomes. One gains steady value, while the other stagnates or even declines. Environmental and economic disparities further deepen the divide. Certain zip codes face pollution concerns, overcrowding, aging apartments, and failing infrastructure, while newer developments look polished and promising. Agents often oversell Aurora to out-of-state buyers, highlighting only the best pockets without explaining how quickly conditions shift across the city. Appreciation is the final trap. In Aurora, your long-term equity depends heavily on micro-location. Choose the wrong block, even by accident, and you may experience flat or negative value growth despite the city's overall expansion. Newcomers unfamiliar with Aurora's patchwork risks often walk blindly into the highest risk zones, only realizing the mistake after crime patterns, school performance, or property values begin revealing the truth. Aurora isn't a bad city. It's an unpredictable one. And for buyers, unpredictability is a financial liability. If this breakdown helped you avoid a bad investment, like, share, comment, and subscribe. More Colorado deep dives are coming.